Thank you. Good evening, and welcome to the September 6, 2022 meeting of the Abington School Board of School Directors. I note the attendance of all board members. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. This evening, I would like to begin with an announcement in regard to filling the vacancy seat on the school board. On tonight's agenda, you'll see that we will vote for the resignation of School Director Mrs. Jennifer O'Rourke, who announced her resignation at the last meeting of the Board of School Directors, effective Saturday, August 27, 2022. The board has 30 days to fill that vacancy. So I would like to provide you with a bit of the process. I would like to start by saying that all of these directions may be found on the home page of the Abington School District website under Recent Postings. Anyone who resides in Abington School District or the Borough of Rockledge for a minimum of 1 year and are at least 18 years of age are eligible to be appointed to the Abington School Board of School Directors. We ask that you send a letter of interest and a resume to the board secretary, who is Mr. Christopher Lionetti, at the Abington School District Administration Building. The address is 970 Highland Avenue, Abington, Pennsylvania, 19001. Or you may email board@abington.k12pa.us. And again, I'll remind you time and time again that this is found on the district website. The information must be received no later than 3 p.m. on Sunday, September 11th, 2022. 3 p.m. Sunday, September 11th, 2022. Please note that all submissions will be made public, and I'm going to say as of Monday, the 12th of September. Okay? It closes Sunday. All records will be made public Monday. After the submission deadline, the Abington Board of School Directors will meet at 7 p.m. in the boardroom of the Administration Building on Monday, September 12th, and Tuesday, September 13th, to interview the applicants. These dates are subject to change based on the number of applicants that are received. The board will vote to appoint a school director on September 20th at our regularly scheduled board meeting. And again, all of these directions can be found on the district's website. With that being said, Dr. Fetcher, are there any additional agenda items for this evening?
I have an announcement. First of all, I'd like to say that it was a great opportunity today. I was able to get to all of the schools in the district, and we greeted our K through 7 and 9 through 10 students today. I want to thank all the efforts of our staff for welcoming the students. And unfortunately, as many of you noticed this morning, it was not the weather that we wished that we had on opening day of school. But the students were amazingly resilient, as we know they can be. And we started the day off, and I saw much joy in students, even though they're leaving their summers behind. But I do want to say that I appreciate everyone's patience today as we sort through some of the transportation issues that arise usually on the first day of every school year, as well as complicating that with the weather this morning posed some difficulty and some delays within our transportation. I know that Mr. Rem and his staff are working throughout today and tonight to rectify any of those issues that occurred. And I just want to say also that I thought that it was a great start this year, and it was nice to see our new grade span reconfiguration in effect, having the opportunity to see some of the activities both at the senior high as well as the middle school, which were unique to the district in terms of how things were in the past. So this is a great time for us. And I know that last week when I welcomed the teachers back, to start this year, everyone came with excitement, and we're really pleased with how this will go. And we will obviously, as we look at our grade span reconfiguration, there'll be some things to iron out as we do this, because it's the first time we're doing this in the district. But there's a lot of excitement in the air, and having the opportunity to be in those buildings today really showed that this is a great direction for the district. So thank you.
Excellent. Any other additional items to be brought up by my fellow board members before we do opening comments? Okay. Opening comments from my fellow board members. Ms. Allen?
Nothing at this time.
Ms. Frazier?
Like Dr. Fetcher said, welcome everyone back, and I'm happy to be here with you guys, and I'm glad we have this shared experience. Let's have a good day.
Mr. Kay?
Nothing, thank you.
Dr. Murray?
I would just like to welcome everybody back to the school year. I hope it got off to a good start for everyone. I know there's been some concern in the community about the holidays we acknowledge, so I was remiss at our last meeting in not wishing everybody a happy Labor Day, a day when we celebrate the sacrifices made by the working men and women of this country for a living wage, a reasonable work day, and the right to bargain collectively. So I'd also like to wish the men and women of our collective bargaining units a belated happy Labor Day.
Thank you. Mr. Muhammad?
Just want to extend a welcome back to all of our students and warm wishes to our educators and administrators as we embark on a new school year.
Thank you. Ms. Fazy?
Nothing at this time.
Dr. Kleiman?
Thanks everyone for being here. I am exhausted, and my kids just went to and from school. Like, I wasn't there all day like the rest of you, so the fact that you're even here tonight is a testament to your commitment to the job and to the requirement that you be here. So thank you for coming. We'll try to keep it short and sweet so that you can all get some rest before another exciting day tomorrow. So thanks for all that you do.
Thank you. As a mother and as a teacher, I second all of that. Dr. Fetcher, please proceed with this evening's honors.
Thank you, Mrs. Brown. Ms. Ali Artur, Communications Coordinator, will share some video highlighting some Abington in the news.
Good evening and happy first day of school. On Friday, August 26th, Abington School District celebrated the grand reopening of the Abington Senior High School additions and renovations and the Stephen A. Schwarzman Center for Science and Technology, a project that began with a groundbreaking in November 2018 and is culminating with today's implementation of the ASD grade span reconfiguration. Later this fall, we're planning tour opportunities for community members and Abington Senior High School parents and guardians. We'll get to see the space during tours that will be scheduled before the senior high's all-school parent night later this month. In the meantime, I'm pleased to share news coverage of the ribbon cutting that was aired on Fox 29 News. In addition, after the ribbon cutting news clip, I'll share a story from 6 ABC, which is hot off the presses and just aired this evening, covering this morning's arrival at Overlook Elementary School for the first day.
Students at Abington Senior High School have a brand new section of the school to learn in. The Abington School District cutting the ribbon today on the new Stephen A. Schwarzman Center for Science and Technology. They also celebrated other major additions and renovations. Some of the new facilities include a brand new gym, cafeteria, career center, and classrooms for 9th grade students who were previously at a different school.
This work was new and exciting, as it meant that this community was on the cusp of building something new for students, parents, guardians, teachers, and staff members.
The renovation project began back in November of 2018, and now it's done.
Bear with me one moment while I pull up the other clip.
Well, despite today's heavy rain, there were still plenty of smiling faces for the Abington School District's first day of classes today.
Excited students were dropped off here at Overlook Elementary School this morning under their umbrellas, many of them, and then they were ushered inside to their classrooms. It was also the first day for the school's new principal, Karima Boyd. Her two sons went to the very same school and have since graduated from Abington High, so good luck to the staff and the students.
Absolutely. Wish them all the best.
Thank you.
Excellent. Yes. Dr. Fetcher, please proceed with the board orientations for this evening.
Thank you, Mrs. Brown. I'm going to ask Dr. Melchor to proceed with our safety and security update.
Thank you, Dr. Fetcher. Good evening, Mrs. Brown, members of the Board of School Directors. This evening, I'm pleased to provide for you an orientation to safety and security measures and programs that take place within Abington School District. First, just to orient you to the personnel who are involved in the various safety and security related activities. Pennsylvania law requires that each school district have a named safety and security coordinator who oversees the individuals involved in security. And one of my responsibilities in the school district is to fulfill that role. In addition, we have 2 school police officers who are Abington School District personnel and former members of local law enforcement. 2 school resource officers who are members of Abington Township Police Department. And this year, 13 school security agents who are assigned to the middle school, senior high school, and the administration building. Those individuals are contracted through U.S. Security Care Incorporated. This is our 3rd year of contracting with that company. You can see on the screen the 4 individuals who are school police officers or school resource officers. Officer Jones is assigned to Abington Senior High School, Officer Marrero to Abington Middle School, and then Mr. Begley and Mr. Hawkwin are assigned to the 7 elementary schools, and they split that responsibility between the 2 of them. We have had a multi-year collaborative partnership with Abington Township Police Department. You see on the screen 5 different areas in which we collaborate. You know that, again, we have the SROs at the middle school and the senior high school. We also have involvement by Abington Township Police Department in our review and implementation of our emergency operations plan. That plan is reviewed and updated every other year, and this is the year for that review and consideration for a recommended adoption by you by the end of the school year. We also have a memorandum of understanding with Abington Township Police Department, and that memorandum addresses expectations regarding collaboration, cooperation, as well as the specific offenses for which there's mandatory notification of law enforcement. You know that Abington Township police officers regularly stop by the schools while they're on their patrols, in addition to providing DARE instruction this year with the grade span reconfiguration in grade 5. And finally, the last bullet, blue band radios. Those are radios that provide direct communication between the school district and Abington Township Police Department. Those radios are present in each building. Multiple radios are present in each building, so that in the case of an emergency or a need for assistance, we can have that direct two-way communication. We were able to purchase those radios and upgrade them over the course of the last few years through grant funding from Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency. In fall of 2019, the district applied for and received a grant of just over $450,000 from PCCD, and those funds were used for purchase of the blue band radios, as well as replacement of the middle school camera system, upgrades to the elementary cameras, as well as upgrades at the bus garage for camera system and implementation of a new camera system at Schwartzman Stadium. This year, as part of Act 55 of 2022, every school district in Pennsylvania has been provided non-competitive grant funds for additional safety and security measures. And you see on the screen the funding that Abington School District has been provided. We submitted an application at the end of August for these funds. We were provided as part of Act 55 just under $227,000 over the course of the next 2 years for physical safety and security equipment, as well as an equivalent amount for mental health programming. And PCCD provides specific criteria for how we can determine how those funds will be used. So over the course of the next several months, you'll see at future board meetings some recommended awards of contract for use of those funds. 3 years ago, when we received the significant grant from PCCD, in addition to the other items that I mentioned that were purchased, we also purchased for implementation a visitor management system. And this is a system that is recommended by PCCD as something that should be in place in schools to monitor visitors and ensure that folks who should not be entering schools cannot access schools. We implemented this system this year for the start of the school year. As you came in, you saw one of the systems in the vestibule of this building. They are also located in the secure vestibule of each of our 10 school buildings. So there's one located at Rydell East, one located at Rydell West. When a visitor comes to a school, they will use a state-issued ID, could be a passport, could be a driver's license, to input their information into the system, and the Raptor system will check that individual's information against the National Sex Offender Database, as well as against any protection from abuse orders with regard to individuals who are in that building, so that we can be assured that folks who are entering our buildings are, in fact, individuals who should be permitted to be around children. Safe to Say Something is a program that has been in place over the course of the last 3.5 years. This is a program that was implemented in January of 2019 by the Office of Pennsylvania Attorney General. This program, students annually receive information on how to access the program and reasons why they may want to access the program in order to provide information if they have a concern about their school environment or a fellow student or something else that is causing concern. There are 5 individuals, including myself, in the district who are part of the Safe to Say Something team who receive the tips once they are submitted. They can be submitted 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in the event of what's called a life safety tip, where a student is providing a tip that indicates someone may be at immediate risk of harm. Those tips are provided 24 hours a day to the team to respond to. The district is also required to have a threat assessment team. This was implemented as part of Act 14 of 2019 last year. The team, you can see the individuals who have received training in threat assessment from, again, myself, the school police officers, some of the directors of pupil services, special education, down to, at the building level, our counselors, psychologists, principals, and other supervisors. There's information on the district website and provided in Dr. Fetcher's annual notification to parents and guardians on how to contact the threat assessment team. And these individuals are all trained in CSTAG, which stands for Comprehensive School Threat Assessment Guidelines, to investigate threats that are reported and working with law enforcement to determine if those threats are transitory, substantive, and actions to take. The last 2 slides provide some information with regard to different trainings and programs for students as well as staff. You see listed, again, some of the programs for our student population, from Safe to Say Something training, which begins in grade 5 and continues up through grade 12, to Second Step, which is a program that has been in place now over the last few years up through grades K to 8. Rethink Ed, which was approved by the board as a new program last year and is in place for grades 9 through 12. You know, we have a district climate committee, which provides an opportunity for consideration of ways to improve school climate, student sense of belonging, and student success. Superintendent's committee regarding bullying prevention continues to have school-based student teams, as well as a district committee. And you know, we have an equitable practices committee which meets on a quarterly basis to discuss how to better meet students' needs and sense of belonging in the school. And finally, the last bullet just identifies for you one of our 2 comprehensive plan goals for the next 3 years, which again focuses on social and emotional wellness toward the success of all students. With regard to our staff, there are 3 specific sets of trainings in which our staff were engaged. Last school year, staff participated in suicide awareness and prevention training. This school year, staff have participated in child abuse recognition and prevention training, and beginning with faculty meetings in September and October, leading up to district-wide in-service on November 8th, staff are participating in safety and security training. You see listed specific areas of focus for that training that were identified in Act 44 of 2018, and it was originally a requirement for 3 hours of training every 5 years. That has been increased with recent legislation over the summer, so that the requirement is now an hour minimum, an hour per year in-person training on threat assessment, on security drills, and then 2 additional hours every 5 years on other topics that are listed. So Abington goes far and beyond what is the minimum requirement for these trainings through the use of Abington Township Police Department and our school police officers and resource officers to provide the training. So those are just some of the efforts that are currently in place in the school district. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comments from my fellow board members? The mics are open.
I had one question about the mental health aspect. Could you give us some samples of what you think will be coming up under that heading?
Sure. We're looking at things such as additional social workers, so that we have additional folks available at the building level to work with students on different mental health issues, school avoidance, attendance issues. We also, you may recall that over the course of the last 2 years, we engaged with Child and Family Focus to provide some additional consulting opportunities for that outside provider to work with both students and families. Excuse me. So we will be looking to continue and expand upon that programming.
I have a question. Thanks so much for this overview. Appreciate it. You mentioned that the revision of the safety plan every 2 years. Is that plan also practiced, and if so, how often is that done?
Sure. The drills occur at the building level throughout the course of the year. We are required to have an emergency drill in each of the schools within the first 90 calendar days of the school year. In addition to that, we have at least one, usually 2 fire drills per month. In addition to that, we have, thank you. We have also practiced our school reunification plans. We will likely do that again this year. We haven't done it, obviously, for a few years, but that would be the plan that would be put in place in the event that we would need to evacuate, an elementary school, to have the students either come to the middle school or the senior high school, and what the process would be then for parents and guardians to come and pick up their children. So each of the building principals works with their staff to walk through, do some tabletop drills for those plans, and that will be part of what we do as well with the November in-service.
Thank you.
I have a question. The SBOs that are splitting the elementary schools, I know you said that they're primarily there to respond to external threats. Could you talk about when and if they do respond to disciplinary issues in schools, and what's the procedure, what's the conversation around that kind of response from the SBOs?
Sure. A school police officer is not a disciplinarian, so the building principal, assistant principal would be engaged with discipline, but they may ask for a school police officer, or at the secondary level, a school resource officer, to meet with the child and their parents in the case of, if a child brings a knife to school, if a child is engaged in a fight or some other type of significant incident, to talk through what happened, how to, why it is a big deal at the elementary level, and how to perhaps engage differently in the future. But any discipline, any a suspension or any other type of discipline would be issued by the school principal or other administrator, not the school police officer.
So conversations on a periodic basis.
I know when we approved a climate officer, it was at the junior high. My assumption is that the climate officer is now at the middle school.
and we have a district climate team. How often do you meet, and are students a part of the district climate team?
Sure. Students are part of that district team. Dr. Fetcher, if I can pick on Dr. Rosenthal to provide a little
Sure.
more detail on that.
Yes, we meet quarterly, and students and parent representatives are invited as well.
Thank you. And how often would the board be provided with updates just to see how the impact of having a climate officer at the middle school, what changes, what positive changes are we seeing?
There's no set thing.
Set time.
I will keep you abreast of all the positive things that are going on and any struggles that are going on in all of our schools in my communications to you. So I will, I ensure that through anytime we have a position or we look at a position and evaluate the impact of that, I'll share that with you.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments from the board? Thank you very much. Dr. Fetcher, does that conclude our board orientation?
It does, yes.
Excellent. We will move forward with agenda item number 4, which is comments from citizens. Comments from citizens are being conducted both in person and by phone. The phone number to participate in public comments is 267-715-3717 and is being displayed on the screen at this time. You will be able to join in by calling in on your mobile or landline phone. For those who are not able to watch or participate at this time, this meeting is being recorded and will be accessible by Friday. Mr. Letts, as we give people time to call in, if you would like to make a comment from the floor, there are mics to the left and to the right of you. Please be sure to state your name and address.
Ready?
I'm ready if you are.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Joe Rooney. I live in Ardsley. First, anybody look up Charles Lwanga from last meeting? You didn't do your homework. Sorry about that. That's too bad. All right, well, I'm going to ask St. Charles Lwanga and Ugandan martyrs if you would act as an advocate and a patron for our students as they begin this new year and protect them. The second one is I think you ought to mention that the people who are applying for the school director's job, they'll need to run in the election next November, actually in the primary also, because the way the state law states, they have to run in the next election cycle. And if I'm wrong on that, I'll apologize, but I think it's accurate. I'm curious, and maybe you all have some comment on it. When Jennifer O'Rourke resigned, she basically stated that she could be a better advocate for education off the board and sitting in the audience than she could as a director. That's pretty shocking. It either says one of two things to me. Either that she was so poorly treated on the board, and we saw evidence of that the last May election, last May meeting, she was pretty roughly handled. Or the board of directors themselves are that ineffective that they can't have a better effect as an elected representative to us. And maybe you guys could, there wasn't any explanation at the meeting, and possibly you could expand on that. I'm sure you're interested, but she doesn't think she could be more effective for education on the board than off it. That's pretty amazing. Moving on from that, tax bills are due today. So if you're here or you're watching or you're listening, thank you to all the 22,000 Abington residents who actually pay the bills for all of these salaries for this room, the electricity. And then following on with that, that was a great opening. It's a beautiful building. And God bless Mr. Schwartzman for a $25 million donation. It's really incredible. Except I got 1 minute. We're paying $155 million for that same building. So all the taxpayers, Mr. Schwartzman's paid 14% as an individual. And the rest of us who live here, now I know a lot of administrators don't live in Abington, okay? But you all on the board do. We're paying 86% of that bill. So those are the folks that ought to get the hearty, both the people who are paying right now, our kids who are going to be paying it for the next 21 years, I think it is. So $86 million bond was supposed to be for the building and other capital projects. Then there's $68 million in interest. And all that money has been consumed, and I don't know where the rest, because I think the project's up to over $120 million right now. So I'm not exactly sure. And am I done, Mr. Modine? Close enough. I'll do the rest of it at the next one. Thank you all.
Thank you for your voice. There are mics to the left or to the right of you if you would like to make a comment within the building. Mr. Lutz.
Our next citizen for public comment is phone number ending in 5002. Please state your full name and address.
Hi, my name is Beth Carr from Chester Avenue.
Hello, I can hear you.
Oh, good. Hi, I wanted to say welcome back and thank you for the installation of the Raptor system. That sounds amazing, and all of the additional funding that's coming to better improve our security and our safety and the mental health for our students is great. I look forward to hearing more about that later. I had one question about the interview process for the potential new board member. The meetings that are going to be on Monday and Tuesday, they'll be open to the public, I assume, in the administration building, but will they also be broadcast on the live stream? That was the only thing I wanted to know. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great night.
Thank you. Mr. Lutz, can you confirm that there are no additional callers on the line?
That is correct.
Thank you. Last call for inside the room. Dr. Fetcher?
I have nothing to add to that. I will just say that we will make sure that the interviews are live streamed.
Thank you very much. That takes us to agenda item number 6. Dr. Kleiman, can you please read the recommendation to approve the August meeting minutes?
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves the minutes of the board meeting on August 9th, 2022, and the board meeting on August 23rd, 2022.
Second.
We have a second. This is a voice vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it and so moved. Dr. Kleiman, can you please read the recommendation for approval of the personnel addenda?
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves the changes in personnel as reflected in Personnel Addendum Number 7.1 and Confidential Personnel Addendum Number 7.1A.
Second.
We have a second. Dr. Fetcher?
Thank you, Mrs. Brown. The personnel addendum begins with item number 1 in the appointment of 3 professional employees for the 2022-2023 school year. Item number 2 is the change of assignment for 1 professional employee. Under item number 3 is the request for a leave of absence for 2 professional employees. And the personnel addendum continues with compensation for a due process meeting, IEP meeting, interpreter service, and translation services, the hiring of substitutes and support personnel items. Also, you will see under item number 15, the request for 5 additional paraprofessionals.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Okay. As always, we wish those who are retiring a happy retirement. And that takes us to Mrs. Young.
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Mr. Kai?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Basie? Aye. Dr. Kleiman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye. Ayes have it and motion passes. Dr. Kleiman, can you please read the recommendation for permits for use of buildings and grounds?
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves the applications for permits for use of buildings and grounds as reflected in Addendum Number 8.1. All permits are subject to change per the provisions of the Health, Safety, and Instructional Plan pertaining to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Second.
We have a second. Dr. Fetcher?
Thank you, Mrs. Brown. The permit addendum continues to reflect requests for buildings and grounds for this time of year. I bring your attention to permit number 80, which is for the COVID-19 flu vaccination clinic to be held at Abington Senior High School on September 16, 2022.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Seeing that there are none, Mrs. Young?
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Mr. Kai?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Basie? Aye. Dr. Kleiman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye. Ayes have it and motion passes. Dr. Kleiman, can you please read
The recommendation for awards of contracts.
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves the award of contracts as reflected in addendum number 9.1.
Second.
We have a second, Dr. Fetcher.
Thank you, Mrs. Brown. Tonight, for your consideration, we have 2 awards of contract. The first is for notebook computers, and the second is for replacement wrestling mats for Abington Senior High School. And we have 1 Montgomery County School Entities Joint Purchasing Agreement for unleaded gasoline and diesel fuel for 2022-2023.
Questions or comments from the board?
Mrs. Young?
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Mr. Kay?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Fazy?
Aye.
Dr. Kleiman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye. Ayes have it, and motion passes. Dr. Kleiman, can you please read the recommendation for the confidential student matter?
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves the confidential student matter as reflected in addendum number 10.1.
Second.
Oh, second.
We have a second, Dr. Fetcher.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. I can, keeping in mind the confidentiality of student matters, I can answer any questions that you may have.
Questions or comments from the board?
Mrs. Young?
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Mr. Kay?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Fazy?
Aye.
Dr. Kleiman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye. Ayes have it, and motion passes. Dr. Kleiman, can you please read the recommendation regarding resignation of a school board member?
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors accept the resignation of Mrs. Jennifer O'Rourke from the Abington Board of School Directors effective August 27th, 2022.
Second.
We have a second, Dr. Fetcher.
Nothing to add.
Questions or comments from the board? I would just like to say that serving as a board director is a personal decision. And with that being said, Mrs. Young, this is a vote, please.
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Mr. Kay?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Fazy?
Aye.
Dr. Kleiman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye. Ayes have it, and motion passes. Dr. Fetcher, are there any other additional reports this evening?
Yes, Mrs. Brown, I bring to your attention the conference attendance and professional leaves and capital improvement projects report.
Thank you. Any other business to be brought about by my fellow board members? Okay. We will move forward with agenda item number 14, which is comments from citizens. Comments from citizens are being conducted both in person and by phone. The phone number to participate in public comment is on the screen, 267-715-3717. And you may call in on your mobile or landline phone. There are also mics to the left or to the right of you in the building. Please be sure to state your name and address.
Looks like a 39-minute meeting right now. That's pretty amazing. So, first off, going back to Mrs. O'Rourke again and the comment just made by the board president, being a school director isn't a personal decision, it's an elected position. And people need to make that decision before they run, whether they're going to serve, come to the meetings, participate. So if you plan on running for school director, then you ought to serve out your term of 4 years to the best of your ability. There may be a physical problem or something else, but beyond that, you owe it to everybody to come to the meetings. If you don't come to the meetings, participate via Zoom or whatever the mechanism is, and then participate. One of your directors didn't show up at the last meeting, thankfully, because we were able to protect our comments but without that vote. But it was great. Now there's only 8. There's a chance to be a tie vote, and that 9th vote would be important between now and the next election. So I know it's just my opinion, but you guys aren't volunteers. You all ran and promised all the citizens that are here and watching that you would give good and faithful service. I have kids serving in the military. They're out every single day. They got a lot harder job than any of you all do, and they're doing it every single day, and I've done it myself. So show up and vote and serve out your term. I know, it sounds pretty crazy, doesn't it? The second one is What can we expect for improvements in education now that we have this building up and operating? You're the directors. You're supposed to oversee this stuff. So we can start with the 3 R's. Is there any mechanism that we can look, where we can actually look and see we've achieved this goal, this goal, this goal? Are we going to see improvements in math skills, in reading skills, in basic educational skills? And then actually hold the administration accountable and go, look, we've just invested $170 million in this project. Where are we going? How are we going to know 6 months from now that we're there? The third one is 39-minute meeting, okay? It's a $181 million operation every year. If we have time on a short meeting, then we ought to talk about something important. So what I would suggest to you is there needs to be a mechanism for citizens to get items on the agenda. I know the way it reads right now in the SAP is that the superintendent and the president of the board, I don't mean to point, that's bad manners, I apologize. They get together and figure out the agenda. All the school directors should say what's coming up. And if I have to say something to one of you, you won't respond to me. But there should be a way for citizens to go, I think this is important. I'm a mom in Overlook. I'm a mom in a junior high school. I'm a dad, and I'm worried about this. To get that on the agenda and then have the discussion both with the staff and with a citizen who can get up and say, this is what I'm concerned about, and not have Mr. O'Donohue shutting them down after 3 minutes, and then ask for an extra 30 seconds and get stopped. So there's a suggestion, 39 minutes. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Lutz, can you confirm that there are no additional callers on the line?
That is confirmed.
Thank you. Any other speakers from the floor? Dr. Fetcher.
Thank you, Mrs. Brown. First, I want to address the accountability of our schools. Each school does complete a school improvement plan, regardless of the status or success of that school. And in there are goals and measurable goals that we do report to you as Board of School Directors to demonstrate where there are areas where we have been successful or areas that need improvement. So we do that on an annual basis. And I believe that the new program at the senior high school will be evaluated in that manner as well as through other measures that are state-oriented. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, in terms of topics from parents and concerns overall, we have created orientations for the board and for the public based on overall concerns. If there are individual concerns from a parent, we have addressed those. We begin at the building level with the principal trying to address those, and then if there's not satisfaction there, we have worked through the administration building here, Dr. Melchor and I have worked with parents to try to come to resolve on their concerns. If we have an overall concern from a group of parents, often we will do an orientation to address that. Tonight's orientation that you saw on safety and security came out of a lot of concern from our parents in the spring. And we wanted to make sure that we addressed that and showed what was going on in the district in terms of how we were addressing safety and security. So that's one feedback loop that I just think is important for the community to know, that these orientations that we put on for the public are for not only the board's benefit, but also the public's benefit as well.
Thank you so much for that valuable feedback. At this time, we will close out with comments from my fellow board members. Mr. Allen?
Nothing, thank you.
Ms. Frazier?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Kay? Dr. Mowry?
Yeah, I just want to add my thanks to yours, Dr. Fetcher, for clarifying those procedures. Certainly, it's been my experience since I've been on the board that community members and parents do reach out to us, and that where we can be individually responsive, we are, where it's appropriate to pass along questions and concerns to the administration, we do, and where there is a kind of critical mass of community interests, as Dr. Fetcher just outlined, the district has been very responsive in creating orientations for board meetings so that community members, hopefully get some of their questions answered.
Agreed. Mr. Mohammed?
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. Ms. Fazy?
Nothing at this time.
Dr. Kleiman?
No, thank you.
Dr. Fetcher?
Just looking forward to day 2 of school tomorrow.
May
Day
it be
two.
drier.
Day 2 for some, day 1 for others. Have a great evening, and thank you for everything that you do.